One Piece has been in publication since the summer of 1997, which with some quick maths means that it's been running for about 25 years now. It's currently on chapter 1061, and by the time that this video is posted, chapter 1062 will have been published. I started reading One Piece about 5 months ago, and I just finished chapter 580 this morning. And in the past 5 months, One Piece has slowly but surely begun to change my life. Let me explain. Hello, and welcome back to the only YouTube channel on the internet. Don't look that up, just take my word for it. I'm the only YouTube channel. You can't prove me wrong. When I was first considering starting One Piece, I had the same trepidation that any rational-minded person would have, and that is the length. How do you justify watching or reading something that is so long when the market for content is already so oversaturated, so flooded with things that it's impossible to catch up on all of the new things that are constantly coming out? I personally feel like I'm always one step behind the trend. I'm always behind on whatever the newest show or movie or book is that's out. There's always so much to consume, and it feels like it's just never ending. So when you see something like One Piece, it's really easy to question how it's possible to commit to something that takes so long and would take up such a large chunk of your time when you could watch, 100 other things in that same amount of time. And that is a totally reasonable trepidation to have. I completely understand that train of thought. I was there just 5 months ago before I started reading One Piece. And I'm not making this video to just convince people to watch One Piece, although I do think that my experience with it might do just that. It is incredibly daunting to look at this and think I'm gonna have to watch or read 1,000 chapters of this one story to be caught up, and it's not even finished yet. It's still in publication currently. So I don't blame anyone who looks at that and sees the sheer amount of story that they would have to catch up on and is completely turned off by that. I don't blame anyone, but in my subjective experience, I will say that it has been 1000% worth it, and I encourage anyone who is trepidatious to maybe hear what I have to say about it, and potentially you'll have your mind changed. Although that's not the purpose of this video. To fill you in on the lore of my personal journey to starting this series, I was working at a bookstore when I was considering starting, and I would occasionally pick up the manga volumes we had, and I would just pick a random volume of One Piece and just check out the inside, because I was always a little curious, but I just wanted to get a taste of what was in store for me if I was going to start it. So I was initially drawn in by the wacky characters in strange world that they were inhabiting that I would see when I would just flip open to random pages, because to me, One Piece had always just been the pirate anime, and I was confused how a story about pirates would get to the things I was seeing on the page. The other piece of the puzzle that slowly started to draw me in was just seeing the passion and ardor from the fans that were consistently keeping up with this story for years and years and years, and seemed to have never ever lost their passion for it. Initially, I was turned off by the almost evangelical quality that One Piece fans seem to have about them, but over time, I started to be more curious about it. So eventually, I was able to put aside my trepidations, and I started reading One Piece. Ever since then, I have had zero doubts in my mind that I made the correct decision. There is absolutely nothing out there that is more worth my time than One Piece is. I could talk all day about why that is. This video could be well over an hour long if I just let myself continue to ramble. So instead, I'm going to contain myself to a handful of key points. And I could also endlessly sing this manga's praise in objective terms, but I feel like that's been done a million times, and I don't want to rehash points that people have already recycled a number of times. So instead, I'm going to contain this to just my subjective experience reading One Piece and how it's affected me personally. This video is already going to be super long. I have a lot of Oda teat to suckle at, so let's just jump into it. As a kid, I was absolutely one of those people who would just completely get lost within the series they were reading. And those are some of my most precious memories, is just spending a day reading Harry Potter on the couch and just getting totally lost in that world and in that story. And I've experienced that to varying degrees over time. There have been moments of greatness that I felt while reading a book or reading a manga or watching a movie or a series or whatever it is. I felt it in varying degrees. I've never fully recaptured it in the way that I felt it when I was 8, 9 years old. And I think part of that is just simply the natural side effect of aging. At least for me, it's become a lot harder to experience things in that way simply because I'm older and I understand more about the world, and it's harder to just fully let yourself be entranced by the imagination, right? And so for a while, I've sort of been grieving that experience that I had as a child because I kind of thought I would never recapture it in that same way. But One Piece has totally proven me wrong. Ever since I started One Piece, I cannot count the amount of hours I've spent feeling like a kid again. I've spent so much time lost in the adventure of this story and in the world that's been created in this fantastical, whimsical, crazy place that is so vividly imagined. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that this is the first time I've felt like a child while reading something in years. I truly think that One Piece as a work of fiction is a prime example of the limitless reaches of the human imagination. Anything can happen in One Piece. Anything that you can picture in your mind has been brought to life in this series, and it's incredible the way that it's done. The world is just so lush and full of life and things that are fantastical and crazy and just things you cannot even picture in your head until you've seen it on the page. In my personal opinion, that is one of the greatest things that a story can do for you as a reader. And oddly enough, I feel like my experience reading One Piece has started to sort of leak into other areas of my life. When I'm reading anything else, when I'm reading a book or something, I feel like I'm able to imagine it in a way that I wasn't able to before, because that sense of wonder and adventure is just being carried over to everything else that I'm reading and watching, and it's so incredible to be experiencing that again. I mean, what can I say? One Piece has the sauce, okay? I know for me, I tend to emulate the characters that I'm reading in some fashion, at least a little bit. It's like when you hang out with someone a lot, you tend to pick up on their quirks a little bit. You kind of adopt some of their traits and whatnot. I find myself sometimes doing that with fictional characters. And with Luffy, he has this childlike single-mindedness to him that is so fun to be around when you're reading or watching One Piece, and I find myself wanting to emulate it in real life. He has this quality about him that's just so shameless with everything that he does. Even with just his YouTube channel, I was a little nervous before I made my first video because I was like, who's gonna care what I have to say about anything? But then I went ahead and made the video, and I have like 4.6 thousand views on it right now, which is crazy. I've gotten like 200 something subscribers in just a month. And it was one of those things that I kind of had to just push forward and not really care what anyone else thought and just kind of do it because I want to do it. And that's something that, in a way, I've kind of taken from Luffy. And it's weird to say that, but I think it's true. And again, I feel like you could say that about a lot of different shonen protagonists, but it's just implemented so well with Luffy. He is such a compelling protagonist, and he is so lovable, and he has all these qualities about him that make him so pure yet so determined and fiery, and all these incredible traits that are really easy to fall in love with and to want to emulate. And so I find myself more and more as I get further into the story, and Luffy becomes also a little bit more jaded. He starts to learn more about the world and the way that it works, and yet he continues to have that childlike wonderment. He continues to doggedly pursue his goals without a care in the world, without ever thinking about what could possibly happen to him, what people could think about him. He just does it because he loves doing it and because he loves life. This point is a bit more on the cheesy side, but I truly do find the character's positive mindset towards everything very inspiring. So this point is perhaps the most important one that I have taken away from One Piece, and I think this is a large part of the philosophy of what Oda is bringing across in his themes. There's something super special about being with a tight-knit group of characters who love each other so deeply and who are on this grand adventure through this fantastical world, and you can tell that whether they are just having dinner with their crewmates on their ship or they're exploring this fantastical sky island, they are happy to be where they're at all times. There have been so many times within this story that I see a character so happy over such a simple joy. There are so many intimate moments of people just sharing a meal or cracking a joke together, just sharing each other's company, that in the grand scheme of the story aren't all that important, and he doesn't have to include them for the story to be written, because so much of this story is people just coming together and being happy, being around each other, just enjoying each other's company and enjoying the moment. And in a story that is as grand and epic as One Piece, I think that's such a special thing to include. And in my own life, I think sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up in the big picture of everything, to get wrapped up in what your overarching goals are in life and what the big things are that you want to do, that sometimes it's easy to forget that some of the best moments in life are when you are just hanging out with friends and when you are just sitting down for a meal or enjoying those small present moments. And as I've come to love those moments in One Piece, I've started to notice them more in my own life. It's such an easy thing to look around and notice those small moments and be grateful for them. For me, this is just such a special thing that the story has given to me and that it keeps giving to me. Something that One Piece excels at is balancing drama and comedy. The characters could be in the most intense, high-stakes battle of their entire life, and in the next page, they're cracking some wacky joke that in another story would feel super out of place and would be super jarring, but One Piece masterfully weaves those two things together in this way that is so incredible. At first, I was like, oh, this is just kind of quirky. It's just a fun way of spicing up the fights in this story. I didn't really think a whole lot of it. But over time, I've started to realize that this sort of ties in to the philosophy I was talking about in the last point. And on the surface level, this could just be seen as a way of adding entertainment value to the story, but I really do think that it goes deeper than that. This is another piece of the puzzle that I've been discussing about how characters are so childlike in the way that they handle things and the way that they approach things, in that they're not afraid to laugh at things. They're not afraid to have these moments of whimsy, even in these situations that should be so serious and so intense. They're not afraid to have those moments of intimacy within all of that. Sometimes I fall prey to taking myself too seriously and to taking situations too seriously. And there's nothing harmful about just taking a step back and realizing when something is funny. One Piece absolutely shines a light on those moments. I've started to realize that for me, a healthy way of approaching a lot of things is to have a balance and to be able to laugh at it, but also take it seriously. And sometimes I lean way too far into, I take everything seriously. I can never have a lighthearted moment when I'm in a certain mood. But having those moments to just take a step back and laugh at either yourself or a situation can be really important in real life. I don't know, maybe this one's a bit of a stretch, but I truly do feel like One Piece shines a light on that aspect of life in a way that is just really spoken to me, and I can't exactly explain why, it just does. All right, this is the last point. I've already been rambling way too long, but I'm gonna wrap it all up here. I feel like this last point encapsulates everything I've been talking about. This point serves both as the reason that I think One Piece works so well as a story, and the biggest thing that I have taken away from One Piece as a whole. One Piece, to me, fully embodies the saying, it's the journey, not the destination. On the surface level, trying to explain the story of One Piece to someone, it's easy to explain it as the end goal is to find the One Piece. But that isn't really the end goal of One Piece. Sure, that sits there as the finish line for the story, but the point of One Piece isn't to find the One Piece, it's to go on the adventure to find the One Piece. It's not even about Luffy becoming the Pirate King. It's about none of that. It's about having the experience of sailing the seven seas, of exploring the world, of meeting people, of seeing things, and having friends and doing all these incredible things with them. This is one of Luffy's most important characteristics. This is one of the most important themes that Oda explores within this story. At this point, at least where I'm at, it doesn't even matter what the One Piece actually is. It doesn't matter what that object is. What matters is how they get there. And this theme has been reinforced over and over and over in a way that is just so touching and that is really spoken to me in this super deep way. I guess I've just had this mindset in my life for so long that what matters is the next thing. What matters is getting to that goal. It's to getting to the next end point. But that's not what life is about, and I don't think it should ever be about that. This is something that I've known for a long time, but it's easier to say that than to believe it and to feel it. But through reading One Piece, I've just over and over again been reminded of the beauty of just going on the adventure, of just experiencing things as they come and being happy that I'm doing it. This to me is the heart of One Piece and the heart of what I have taken away from it as a lesson. And listen, these are things that you could take away from a lot of different stories, and I think a lot of different stories do explore them in similar ways that One Piece does. But for some reason, there is something magical about this story. It blows my mind that one man is behind all of this. Eiichiro Oda, I bow down. The man is incredible. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he has never strayed from the path that he's clearly laid out 25 years ago. And that's another thing that's just so inspiring about One Piece, is that in real life, this is the vision of a man who has dedicated himself to a singular story for 25 years and continued to deliver over and over and over. That takes a willpower and a dedication that very few people in history have ever had. I am just so grateful that I decided to go on this journey and that I gave it a chance and that I've allowed it to have its influence on me and that I've been able to recognize all the different things that Oda has been trying to get across through the story of One Piece. It really is just something special, and I could go on and on. I've already been talking way more than I intended to because I just love this story and I can feel the way that being in it has worked its magic on me, and God, dude, I can't stop talking about it. I got to, though. I have to stop or else I'm just gonna ramble forever. So moving forward, I really think that I'm gonna try and focus on talking about things that I love and sharing why I love them and the effect that they've had on me, because for me, that's the kind of things that I like to watch and that I like to hear other people talk about. So I think that's what I'm going to focus on moving forward. And if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to have plenty more moving forward. And until next time, peace out. See ya. Goodbye.